I mean, I try and use the same strategy when it comes to risk that I use in the Snowden reporting, which is it's important as a journalist to be aware of your risks, to take measures to try and minimize them, and then not continue to think about them and do the work. Otherwise, you would never be able to focus on the work. You would be constantly preoccupied with the risks and the fears. Journalism is a dangerous profession for a lot of people, not only for me. There are journalists who cover wars, who die in wars, who work in obscurity without a lot of the visibility that I have, and therefore are very dangerous targets. So I would be lying if I said that I never worried about the risks to my family, to me, to my children, to my husband, to my colleagues. But at the same time, having done the Snowden story where a lot of the risks were similar, though in this case I think they're more intense, I've learned how to manage those risks and fears. Our reporting is completely legal, and obviously I'm very familiar with all of these issues because in a lot of ways what I'm doing now is very similar to what I did in the case of the NSA reporting, where my source, Edward Snowden, obtained documents in a way that the government thought was illegal and then gave that information to me for me to report on it. And obviously no government in the world, even though I reported in every country, Brazil, the US, Canada, Germany, charged me with any crimes. There's all kinds of examples of WikiLeaks and other newspapers, including the New York Times and the Guardian and Der Spiegel, receiving information that the source obtained illegally, but then publishing it. I think in every democracy it's recognized that journalists have the right to report on information in the public interest, even if the source breaks laws in order to obtain it. I think it's still too early to say, but I do have a lot of optimism about Brazil, notwithstanding all of the obvious political problems it faces due to Bolsonaro and the extremist party that he ushered into power. And my model for that in some ways is the United States, where people were obviously worried about the threat Trump posed to democracy. And yet I think that the reaction to Trump on the part of the media, on the part of the judiciary, on the part of the Congress, and especially on the part of the citizenry, which is more engaged now in politics than ever before as a result of fear and anger toward Trump, has meant that American democracy has never been stronger, because the reaction to Trump has been so vibrant and so robust and so energetic. And I see a lot of that here in Brazil. I see the Brazilian media being much more adversarial and energetic than ever before. I think you're seeing courts carefully scrutinizing and monitoring what the Bolsonaro government is doing. I think the population is starting to realize that they have real power and don't need to be afraid or put into submission or support Bolsonaro just because they were angry at PT. So, of course, there's a chance that Bolsonaro could succeed in turning Brazil into a repressive and authoritarian state. I think that's a real possibility. But I also think there's a real possibility for it to have the opposite effect and for it to end up strengthening Brazilian democracy by energizing and encouraging people to insist upon their rights. And a big part of what we're doing with this journalism is trying to show people that that can be done.